Yeah, I got to talk a little bit about testimonials and also the alternative medicine. You know, um, let me put it this way. I don't always trust alternative medicine at all. And, a big tip off when alternative medicine is not the deal it should be is if you have a big hour and a half or hour long info commercial on television with a nice glossy production, and we have operators standing by right now. Right now, you could buy 2 bottles of this for $49.95 or whatever, and then they sell it to you, and buy my book and all that type of stuff. That's when I won't trust a lot of that type of stuff. But if something has been around, like in China or India or in Greece, or going back to the American Indians, and actually if the same thing's been in throughout various cultures in the world, as working against microbes or healing or whatever, then I trust it. Because even though big bad science hasn't gotten behind it too much, it's really not in their financial interest to do so. And that's quite obvious. It's like, why the hell would you make a $10 million study to prove that coconut oil does this or does that when it's going to put you out of business in another area? That's exactly what happens with them. And, some of the best things actually are from the ancients. Now, the reason I'd have to say is, sometimes people will say in alternative medicine, or that look at alternative medicine, if you see testimonials as proof, that means it's a scam. Some people will argue that, and sometimes that is true, especially when it's something brand new. Yet that I would really not trust. I would trust more things that are old and proven, that have been around a long time. But still, testimonials, if a person observed that it worked, and then another person observed that it worked, and you got all these people observing that it worked, and like for instance, like if you got like Chinese doctors and herbalists and American Indian medicine men using these different preparations, and they're all discovering on their own that a plant is effective against something. Well, I just have to say, irregardless of lacking the big university and the high dollar guys in the white lab coats and stuff like that, I would say that the damn stuff works. It's almost like, if an asteroid crashed to Earth or something like that, and it was in a remote location that you couldn't get to right away, and there was like 100 people that saw this thing crash to Earth, and you didn't have time to check and see that there was an actual impact in the Earth. Well, if there's 100 people that told you something, you're going to believe it or not. That's really how I look at it. And if they have no financial interest in it, they're not selling a product, why would you not believe it? So, a lot of times when people are making testimonials, in actuality, it is like an informal scientific study in a lot of ways, because basically, maybe it's not controlled, but if there's enough different areas of the world where people are independently coming up with these conclusions, I think that's actually kind of like giving a preponderance of evidence that the medicinal herb or whatever it is actually is working very well. So I would not totally discount that if somebody does a testimonial, it's bad that something is not a real remedy for something. Testimonials can actually be truth. It's only like you have to watch if they are made up testimonials. That's the problem. But, if a person was diagnosed with, cancer, or if they were diagnosed with, bubonic plague or whatever the hell it is, I don't know, just making something up there. But I mean, like if they were just diagnosed with something and all of a sudden they didn't have it anymore, something happened. Something changed it. There's been a lot of cases where people had various things that were wrong with them, and then he reversed it through herbs and various other methods. Now, I'm going to say, I don't really particularly like, I like the area of health, and actually there's a lot of medical professionals that are truly conscientious people. There are. But it seems like the higher up they go, the worse they are. And in some cases, it's almost as if some of the medical professionals are just totally geared to money. It's like they will ignore anything that does not line their pocket. And those kind of people I have an utmost contempt for, to tell you the truth. And I think as you go higher up the chain in the medical world, money wise, that's where you see more of them. Actually, it's the registered nurses probably are more, hands on and actually give a shit more about people than even most of the doctors. And even amongst the nurses, is probably the LPNs are more the workhorses than the RNs. So that's just how it is. But I'm going to tell you this story. Back in the 1930s, even like after the medical establishment, pretty much they had the Fletcher report, and Rockefeller kind of said, all this stuff with herbal medicine's no good. We use the pharmaceuticals and stuff. There was still a lot of people that were doing home remedies, and they worked. My grandmother used to use the dandelion root all the time, and it's very powerful. And there was people in the neighborhood that were specialized in different things that when anybody was sick, they would go to that person. And they weren't a doctor, and they weren't a medical professional. And the reason they kept going to that person was because that person actually knew their stuff. And they were using these old-time remedies that go back, in some cases, thousands of years. So, you're going to have to really use a lot of street savvy and common sense to make your decision. But that's an individual choice. Do whatever the hell you want. I would not totally ignore established medicine at all. But, in the case of some of the things going on with Obamacare, I'm beginning to wonder if there's going to be a lot of medical treatments that are going to be denied to people. So actually having a good knowledge of a backup system, in some of the herbal medicines is probably a smart thing to do, and actually have some of these things on hand. Because I think, when we go to the affordable health care bill, whatever you want to call it, it's actually going to probably diminish our care. So just let me put it this way. Use your common sense. If somebody's been cured of stuff and it's helped people back thousands of years, and and in China they don't really, despite even like some of the strong government influence in Chinese society, there's a lot of places in China where it's just plain old villages, and they got people that specialize in herbs, and that's what the people go to. The stuff is actually not snake oil. The reason it's been around so long is because the damn stuff works. It's just like if it didn't work, it just wouldn't be around that long. Actually, I've been finding out, if you look in some of the research, some of the things that have been practiced in the established medical world do not work, and they continue to do it because it's very lucrative. And actually, if you think about it, like some of the, maybe now it's gotten better, but if you look back not that many years ago, look what happened with chemotherapy and cancer. How effective was that? It wasn't effective very much at all, but it was very costly and profitable to some people. So, go figure, right? It's up to you. It's your decision, not mine. But I know what my decision is, and I state why that's my decision. I usually stick more with the herbal stuff and natural remedies. I think they're better overall.